then you have two big plays because of undiscipline, poor tackling, undiscipline. That's why the LSU, which we never drafted any of those players, guy went all the way with the screen, and then the 4-2 player, undisciplined, because you can't get no pass rush, and you're not having any help call it, and that boy just made a great catch, just blazed them. So when you have all of those things going on, and you're losing games, because of 4 plays, you lost the Raiders game because of undiscipline. You lost the Giants game, undisciplined. Falcons game, turnovers, undisciplined. You're losing these games last year and the year before, and even in the 2013 season, and even in 2012. These last 5 years, the Saints are an undisciplined team. Kenny Vaccaro made the statement of the year. We know what to do. The coaches go over this every week with us, over and over and over again. It comes to the realization, you just have to come to the conclusion that either the players cannot retain what the coaches are teaching, or in the game, under the pressure, they lose their discipline. You have to ask yourself, why is it that the Seattles and the Arizonas and the New Englands, of the world, or the Denvers, that the players the same age can retain? Maybe it is what Frank Jones said from NFL Huddle. Maybe we really do have a talent problem, and it has now come to that realization that
we've been saying for 3 or 4 years we've had a talent problem, but our coaches as well as the front office has said to the fans, no, we haven't. We're just going through some changes in the injuries and this and that and the other and the muckety muck here, and then trading this stupid fool here for that stupid fool and doing this craziness here, getting rid of a great talent like Jimmy Graham because we want to get a number 1 pick. That now we're talking about trading that same number 1 pick. It doesn't make sense. You wanted this. You are the front office. You are the coaches. You guys wanted certain talents. You went out to get those guys. You traded Jimmy Graham to get the pick where we have now Stephon Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're talking about trading Stephon Anthony? Or give me a break. Something's wrong with you. You're coaching. Something's wrong with you. And I'm going to say this, guys. The Saints had the football 10 times on Sunday, right? 10 possessions versus the Chiefs' 9 possessions. 3 of those possessions resulted in touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 of them resulted in turnovers. 5 of them went nowhere. So tell me, out of 10 possessions, we only were productive 30% of the time. Is that a positive, guys?
It's a little F.
That's failing. Brendan, you're in school, right? That's failing, right?
The offense does not show up on the road.
It's not the offense. It's the coaching. It's the coaching, I believe, is not showing up on the road.
The Mark Ingram and the Drew Brees turnover, Kyle, you can't blame that on the coaching staff. That is Drew Brees and Mark Ingram that ended those drives with those turnovers. That could have equated to at least 10 points, maximum 14, and then you have 35 points. I told you on Friday on the show, I say the Saints, the only way the Saints are going to win games now is that the offense has to play 90%. No turnovers or minimum, no penalties, because that's the only way the Saints are going to win these games. Now, the defense did show up. They gave up 2 big plays, but that was it. And the defense did show up to a degree, but once again, the offense, just like in the Giants game, just like the San Diego game, the Saints offense did not play good in that San Diego game. The defense won that game. The Saints only had 21 points. I don't know what this issue is when they go into other stadiums, if these young cats are just too nervous or get fearful, The Saints look like a different team. At the end of last season, it was the same thing. They won the games in Tampa Bay and Atlanta, but they only scored 20-something points.
The coaching.
They're only averaging between 19 and 22, and it's either bad coaching on the plays they're calling, or when they get in the red zone, I don't know what it is, but they look like two different teams.
Okay, well, I will say this. The Saints in the red zone is the best team, efficiently being the best team in the NFL today whenever they get into the red zone. Okay? So that's okay. The problem, and also the first drives, the Saints have been doing an excellent job, right? Scoring. So we get first drives, we score. And Rev brought this out last night on Who Dat Confessional. And Nick Underhill, who writes for The Advocate, brought this out as well. The Saints on their second drives and third drives have been abysmal in their performances. Nothing comes out of the second drives after the Saints get the ball and score. That is a problem. We cannot be consistent in following up. Now, the Saints also were doing very well in the run game. Brendan and Remy, you guys can possibly attest to this as well. They were doing pretty well. You saw Mark Ingram being pseudo-effective. You saw Hightower being effective. I believe Hightower would average, 7 – let's see, was it 7 yards a game? And 7.8 yards a game. Okay? Mark Ingram, that first half was over almost 5 yards per run. Then all of a sudden, Pete Carmichael or Sean Payton, who I don't know who's really calling the plays, it varies. These guys start becoming pass happy again. When we were running the ball and giving some good control, we became pass happy. And I believe that has really been a hindrance to us, even though Drew has been doing a great job. He's, I think he's doing an MVP job this year, but still, the pass happiness is really not boding well for us to have a consistent drive after drive after drive. Anyone disagree, or if you see anything differently, please say something.
Well, yeah, I'll comment on that. They brought up a very not impressive, but interesting stat in the game as I was watching the game. That pick six that Drew Brees threw put him as having the most pick sixes
of any active quarterback.
Quarterbacks. Okay, so that to me shows that you're going to the well too many times with passing. If you're that efficient of an offense, yet your quarterback has the most pick sixes of any active quarterback, to me that's saying that the offense is too one-dimensional. That's what that says to me.
Good point. Yeah.
I got something for you.
Go ahead.
I thought this was interesting. This was during the Carolina Panthers game, which we won, but it seemed like we were in control for most of that game. And there in the second half, it slipped through our fingers there. But there was a point in that game where the Saints were up by 21 points and had passed the ball more times than they had ran the ball in the entire game. So since the Saints took that 21-point lead against the Panthers, they had threw the ball at that point 21 times since being up by 21. And that total was more than they had ran the ball in the entire game. They had ran the ball 18 times to that point in the game. That was about midway through the third quarter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What does that tell you? When you're up by 21 points in a game, I don't care what point of the game you're up by 21, unless you're playing Madden and you really just want to blow out your opponent, you should be running the ball very consistently up 21 points.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the Saints can't recognize that, a game against Carolina that they really had in hand from after the first quarter on, and they allowed the Panthers to come back into that game, what does that tell you about the play calling?
It's too lopsided. It's too, like Remy say, one-dimensional. You know what's coming.
Exactly.
You know what's coming.
And the thing that I think is frustrating is, you read all these things from Saints fans about the Saints need to trademark Ingram. Ingram doesn't fit the scheme. They're Ingram haters, for lack of a better term. Now, no, Ingram does not fit this scheme at all. But look at the years that he's been able to run the football. Look at 14, when he played in only 12 games and still racked up almost 920 yards on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Look at last year, when he missed time yet again and still put up almost 800 yards on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
When you give the man the football, his career yards per carry average is close to 4.5 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was taught growing up is if you can run the ball for 3 yards on first down and run the ball for 3 yards on second down,
mm-hmm.
or if you get 3 here, 4 there, et cetera, you're doing very well for yourself. You're putting yourself in a situation to win the football game. But the fact that there was, and it was on this show, I believe, that we had talked about it going into week 3 of the season, Ingram had only touched the ball 21 times through 2 games. There's got to be a point where, and it's funny because the commentators against the Chiefs said something along the lines of, you know how Sean Payton loves a balanced offense. And my dad and I were sitting there watching that game, and my dad said, really, can you show me when he's loved a balanced offense? And I looked back and I said, not since 2009.
Exactly.
Not since 9, not since 11. They have really forgot how to run the football. And I feel bad for Mark Ingram because it's always been a running back by committee in New Orleans. And they've always been successful in the years that they've done that. But the Saints refuse to go to Ingram as their featured back. And I think if the Saints would commit to running the football and using Ingram as your featured guy, this guy could be a Pro Bowl running back. I'm not saying a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying a multi-Pro Bowl or an all-pro running back. I'm saying he's got the potential for people to really sit there, look at his statistics, look at his seasons, and think, man, maybe he should be in the Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you brought up an excellent point. Now, I think when you look at the coaching, and I'm going back to the coaching again, the coaches prefer to pass. Why do the coaches prefer to pass? Is it just because they love the fact that we have a great quarterback in Drew Brees? Or do they just have a tendency to not understand how to be able to control football games? Now, I need to go back. Before Sean Payton was ever a head coach with the New Orleans Saints, if you go back, and Professor and Remy, maybe you remember this, when Parcells had to take the play calling from Sean Payton when he was at Dallas because he said he was throwing the ball too much. Remember that? It was in the middle of the season. He had to take.
No, I don't remember that.
I remember this. This is when he was just a little.
You know how I feel about Dallas, man. I'm not following him like that.
He had to take it away, man. But he had to take it away from him because it's like Sean, he's just throwing the ball too much, just throwing it too much. I just think this is his nature. This is what he wants to do.
Let me say this then, because I think you make a point in that. And again, I'm not a guy who ever played the game, so I don't know much about technique and things like that. But I was listening to Bobby Hebert earlier in the week, and he was I think it was Bobby. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, he was saying that the offensive line for the Saints are much better pass blockers intentionally, much better pass blockers than run blockers because that's what the team focuses on is passing. Mm-hmm. Which is why, you don't see as much running because, if you remember the disaster we had running the ball in preseason, when we did try to do so, was because we don't have great run blockers on the line. They're much better pass blockers.
Okay, that's fine. But I got to say this. Max Unger was taking care of business up front in that first quarter for Ingram.